Let's bring in Fox News contributor and former D.C. homicide detective Ted Williams. Great to see you there, Ted. Cavalcante was sentenced to life in prison without parole just last week for the fatal stabbing of his girlfriend. He was set to be transferred to a state correctional institute in 4 weeks. Now, the DA says, quote, there is no evidence at this time that anyone has helped to facilitate this escape or is assisting him at this time. How is that even possible? First of all, he has a backpack. He did not have a backpack in prison. They don't know how he got the backpack. How does one these days, seriously, with the amount of high, intense, sophisticated security at our prisons, does someone escape on their own?
Good morning, Julie. That is a question that the authorities clearly are trying to answer. Cavalcante had been convicted of stabbing his girlfriend in front of their children 38 times. And as a result of that, he would have been on their list as someone who they should have kept a very close eye on.
Absolutely.
So the question is, how did Cavalcante get out of that prison? That is certainly part of the investigation.
Prosecutors say that Cavalcante apparently killed his girlfriend to silence her. Apparently, he wanted to stop her from telling police about charges against him in Brazil. So now, at the time of his girlfriend's murder, there was an active warrant for his arrest for an alleged murder that occurred in his native country of Brazil in 2017. So this guy has quite a rap sheet. And you make, a very good point that with somebody like this, a flight risk, if he in fact did commit a murder in another country and is now here in the United States. I can't understand where the accountability lies here, but do heads roll over this? I mean, how does a prisoner escape from prison these days? Seriously, I can't even understand, not to mention somebody as dangerous as this guy.
Well, I would have to believe at some stage, as part of this investigation's head could more likely than not roll. But I can tell you, him being extremely dangerous and being on the run, it was thought that maybe he had gotten out of that Westchester, Pennsylvania area. But after having seen him at 1:43 a.m. on Saturday morning on surveillance video, they certainly believe that he's still in the area. They are confident that they're going to catch him. I'm confident that very soon they will catch him.
There's that surveillance video. It's up on the upper right side of the screen. Maybe we can cue it up again and put it back up because it's really fascinating. So apparently he's got shorts and a shirt and sneakers and a backpack. And apparently he put the clothes on over his prison garb. So he had a backpack stored or stashed somewhere. Either somebody brought it into that prison or somebody left it outside. It's hard to believe that he actually pulled this off all by himself. Most escapees do have help on the outside. But we're going to have to wait and see. What are your final thoughts on this? And then we're going to move on to another case.
Well, my final thoughts on this one is the backpack is something that he may have been able to get at some of the homes. Well, we must have folks to be very vigilant right now because they're returning home from the holidays, and if they see anything out of order, they should immediately call the authorities.
Yeah, and he is armed and dangerous, so keep your doors locked, windows shut. All right, moving on to attorneys for convicted killer Alex Murdaugh. They plan actually to push for a new trial in the disgraced legal double homicide case based on discovered evidence is what they're calling it. Okay, so Murdaugh's attorneys, they recently filed a motion for a new trial based on this evidence discovered after the previous trial. They plan to discuss the motion at a press conference tomorrow at the South Carolina State House. What are the chances of Murdaugh, you think, getting a new trial based on what they're calling discovered evidence?
Well, Julie, we're going to have to wait and see what the newly discovered evidence is. I can tell you as a lawyer, I believe in trying my case in the courthouse. They're holding a press conference tomorrow afternoon. If they're going to file an appeal, file that appeal and show what this newly discovered evidence is. But I can tell you the evidence in this case of Alex Murdaugh was overwhelming. His alibi, there was a time that on the video Paul, his dead son, had taken just before he was killed. You could hear the voice of Alex Murdaugh, several individuals identified that voice as being his. He got on the stand, meaning Alex Murdaugh, and he also admitted that he lied about being at the kennel in the area where they were killed at the time. He also went to his mother's house and he tried to get one of the housekeeper there to lie about his alibi. The evidence is very strong here. I'm going to be very surprised about this so-called newly discovered evidence and what it is, and why are they presenting it at a press conference instead of presenting it to the court.
Precisely why he was convicted and found guilty, because there were so many holes in his story. He was there that night. His voice was on that voice recording, and he actually changed clothing after the fact. I mean, but good luck to that. And holding a news conference instead of holding it in the court just speaks volumes as to how much, evidence they really have. Anyway, Ted Williams, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.